Welcome back. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
I have a little bit of a frog in my throat today, so I'll be drinking water. Just getting over a cold. But we're going to forge on. I hope everybody at home is doing well. And today, we're going to talk about Christian reputation. Do you think we have a bad reputation, Sarah?
I'd say yes. But I think I'd throw in a caveat where I think it's not all unwarranted sometimes, the bad reputations that Christians get.
Okay, so we might have a little bit of a bad reputation.
What would you say?
Yes, yeah, I would think so. I think that, I'm thinking of reasons that I feel that way, and it's partly because of the famous Christians, that we know in the media. But not even just them. I'm also thinking about just in life in general, things that we're doing. Like I think of myself when I, have judged somebody or not just silently in my mind, but I might have said something that was judgmental. So, yeah, I can see how we get it. And yeah, I think we kind of do.
Yeah, I think sometimes a lot of people, especially who haven't had a lot of exposure to Christianity, and sometimes who have had the wrong kind of exposure to Christians, can be pretty jaded towards Christianity. And I can see it in like workplaces. It's very like no ever talking about Christianity. They say religion, but they don't really stop anybody who speaks of other religions.
Yeah, it does seem to be the big C, eh? Yeah, I find that too. It's not all religions, but Christianity, yeah, you better keep that to yourself.
And I think it really ties into what we were talking about last week with church hurt. And I think a lot of the times Christians, people who have been hurt by the church, we get a bad reputation from that. And then people have a hard time changing their minds.
Yeah, because those people that have been hurt are saying to others about that. Yeah, so it doesn't help the way we're feeling. And as I was saying, when I think about the media, because everything that happens is out there, whether it happened in your neighbor's house, it's on social media, or if it happened to a Christian pastor that you listen to, or a worship team that you're listening and buying their music, they have some kind of scandal. That's over the world. Like the world knows about it then. So that's not just us in our little corners of North America. It's widespread.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes people, instead of getting a glimpse of Jesus, get a glimpse of the sin. We're all sinners as Christians, and I think sometimes people they just see that and then they get hurt, and then they assume in generalities. And I think as humans, we all we have a habit of assuming in generalities. And you see things like, the prosperity gospel and Joel Osteen, and you see pastors with mega jets, and you see the Westboro Baptist Church, who just is very hateful. And I think you see churches coming out and really attacking certain communities. And I think when you see that and then you don't know Christ and Christ's love, and you don't feel the love coming off of Christians, it's really easy to go, let me.
Yeah, very hypocritical though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, your Bible says this, Jesus says this, but you've just done this to this group of people, or you've just hated on those people. So it's, we're being hypocritical. I mean, not all of those people that say that they're Christians are Christians. We have to remember that. Yeah. But sometimes it's happening within the people that truly are following Jesus, but we're falling down in our own sin, in our own journey to try to be better. Yeah.
And I think if you don't get close enough to somebody who really loves Jesus, if you've never experienced somebody just loving on you and pouring out from what they've been poured into from Christ, I think it's really easy to cast judgments or be really hesitant. And so I think it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I wonder, could it be a reason to kind of stay away from those big time organizations, Christianity, those kinds of hypocritical, judgmental people living very wealthy, affluent lives for themselves, money for themselves, not for anybody else. Is that reason to stay away from that, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I think...
Does that add to it, or...
Yeah, I think it can definitely add. I mean, the perception is, you see some of these places where these big mega churches are, and there's, homeless people all around the streets around them, and people are going in, and these pastors, they have their private jets. But I think mega churches are so complicated, too, because there are some people who really connect with God in them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it's a case-by-case basis in helping to change Christians' reputations. I think that a big piece of it is just touching people's lives and showing Christ's love from that to go. And I think it's so transforming when you're so loved. And I think just doing the best individually that you can is the best.
And we know how people can be blessed when somebody with money can give to them. These large churches give millions of dollars. Many of them give millions of dollars to spread the gospel around the world and within their own communities. So it's not the fact that they are affluent, that they have money. It's the actions when you do have them. I think there's a way to be blessed and bless others and still be grounded in our faith, grounded in the gospel. I think there's still a way to be humble and kind and respectful and loving to everybody. So the money shouldn't do that to you, but if you put that before God, then that's what happens. And sometimes I think we even trip up on ourselves, us without the money. We trip up ourselves when we forget, like myself, like if I'm judging somebody else in their sin and, forgetting about the log in my eye because I'm a sinner too. It's like I didn't stop being a sinner just because, I received Christ. So why am I speaking about the other person? And even if I'm not speaking to you about the other person, why am I thinking a negative thought about that person?
Yeah.
Because I'm a sinner too. So
I think, just stepping away from judgment and showing love. And I think another big piece is just meeting practical needs. I think, so I wasn't raised from birth as a Christian. I started going to church when I was around 8 or 9, and there was a neighborhood family on our block. And we actually didn't even know that she was a pastor. My friend Matthew's mom was a pastor.
okay.
And she would just come and help my parents out, when they were both working or one of them was sick. She'd pick me up after school, and I'd go hang out at her place after school and watch, Say Yes to the Dress, and they would care and love on my family. And then they became really good friends, and they invited us to church. And my parents were, a little bit hesitant because they had their opinions
on church?
Yes. And we had never been. And I had my own opinions. I thought it was kind of really twisted and cruel that they were going to make us do school on Sunday. I was picturing kind of math and algebra and science. But I think it goes to show sometimes we just don't know what's in church, and it's scary. And so when somebody steps into your life and provides the kind of love and care that Jesus does and then invites you in, we were I guess we have to go now. And all these years later.
And you know what I'm hearing? That they built a relationship. She didn't come in there with her Bible in her hand and start preaching the gospel. She built a relationship with you and your family. And once she had built a relationship with you as a friend, she invited you to church.
100%. And it's changed all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship piece, I think, is so, so important.
And then how did you start feeling about people who went to church after you met her? She invited you to church. Then what was your feeling about people who go to church?
I think, so I was still pretty hesitant when I went, and I was like, I don't know. And once I went and I saw how loving people were and how kind, and it was classic Baptist, so there was like cake and sandwiches and everything afterwards, which we loved. And so we went and we ate, and we just got to meet people, and they were so kind and so loving, and we were all like, is this what church is? Because this is kind of great. You get cake and love and kindness, and it just transforms people's lives. And I think that's the best way to kind of, when somebody has an idea of the bad reputation that Christians have, just coming in with a little bit of cake and a lot of love can do a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking too. Like they identified themselves with Christ, and you guys saw that in them. Like this is a script. I mean, and not that we do that. That's the way we do it, but that's the way it should be. Like we should just be nice, kind, loving people, and people see that in us. But that was the segue, and just because they were like Jesus, you saw that in them. So that's wow. I was thinking that, and that's just the way those people acted. It was
100%.
perfect. That was perfect. So I mean, I'm thinking you guys probably weren't the only people in that neighborhood that were loved on by that family. Wow, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, they changed a lot of lives that way. And that's how I've strived to share the gospel while meeting with people who have a really bad opinion of Christians. I think especially working at Starbucks as a barista for like 3.5 years, and a lot of people at Starbucks, Starbucks employees, there's a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community that work there. And a lot of members of that community have been very hurt, and so really detest Christians.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, like, fair enough. They've been really hurt by some people. And so my favorite thing to do is kind of show up. And when people ask me what I was studying in school, I'd say the Bible, let people know I was a Christian, and then just act it out, I would offer to mop. I'd offer to, snake the drains when it was backing up, or go and do the dishes, and just go above and beyond and show people love and kindness, and to help and to let them see. It's exactly that, just going and showing them what Christ-like love is.
Yeah, I mean, at one time I thought that just people seeing like the change in me was enough, and as I've grown in my relationship with Jesus, now it's being more vocal, like being more bold, but certainly the gentleness of just building relationships with people is a great start. It's a great start, and it's a great way to knock down those walls that people have against Christians. When they see people going to church, that to automatically have a hate on for them or have an attitude toward them, that it just kind of falls down. Yeah. But there's a verse I wanted to read that made me think of that family that you met. It's 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and reverence. And the gentleness and reverence is what I was thinking. Because they started with the gentleness and reverence, and then the talking and asking and whatever. But they did it the other way around. But that verse, that was the family that you met.
That is, it's so important. It's coming at it with just gentleness and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I stop and I think about how are we to spread the love of Christ, I think of Matthew 5:12 and 5:16, And it's in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see the good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven. It's exactly that, approaching it with kindness and gentleness, I think, is so important. And I think it's important even when they're not showing up with gentleness.
Yeah, that might be even more reason, because they would expect you to come back to reflect that and don't reflect that back to them. Yeah.
Because there's times where I've done this method and come with gentleness and love and support and care, and people are still so mad. And people are still very hesitant. And I think of in 1 Peter, it's 12 this time, it says, live such good lives among the pagans, that though they may accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits.
And what chapter is that?
That's chapter 2.
1 Peter chapter 2. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And so it's essentially, some people are just going to keep being mad at you because you're Christian. But don't give them a reason to say, oh, she's Christian, she did this. You can still, people are going to be mad at you, but, if they look at you, there's nothing. And then eventually you will break through to their hearts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's an important piece. And I mean, Jesus didn't promise that it would be easy. We're not Christians because it's the best, easiest, most relaxed lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's because we love Christ, and we know, the Bible tells us
Yeah, and
things are going to be tough.
Jesus told us that we would be recognized by our love, by our unity, and by our good works. But we also have to remember, everybody didn't accept Jesus. Yeah, so we have to expect that, we are set apart, that we are going to be looked at, we are going to be different. So when you say bad reputation, that bad reputation might be because of our Christian beliefs as well. And, that's not going away. So, I think we'll always, as Christ followers, be different and be set apart, and we should expect that. Yeah. We have to expect that.
So I guess my question then is, practically, when you meet someone and they're really, really hesitant, how can we be better each day? What are some practical ways that we can go out and we can show this?
Practically, definitely in our the way we talk, the way we talk to people, and the way we talk about people. It's okay to talk about people, but when you're talking negatively about them, that's where we're wrong and we're hypocritical. But if you said something nice to somebody about somebody else, that might floor them that you're doing that. But especially the person who might need a kind word. You might have that person in your school who is the loner. You might have the person in your office that no one really pays attention to or stays away from. And not just be kind to them and befriend them, but when you're talking to somebody else, say a kind word about them, so that hopefully they're going to think nicer of them,
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point. And we can also add to that bad reputation. We can say, oh, people have bad reputations because of Joel Osteen, prosperity gospel guy, or, oh, that guy with the jet, or, oh, that guy with the mega church. But we can add to the bad reputation, and we have a chance to show people's Christ love, but we also have an opportunity that we should not take up to push people from Christ. And I think, like you mentioned, gossip. That is a huge piece.
Yeah.
Because let's be
I admit I struggle with that.
Oh, I have a hard time with it too. I mean, it's so entrenched in just the way our culture works. But it's so funny because you talk to someone, you're like, don't tell anybody this. And then they go to someone, they're like, don't tell anyone this. And there's no keeping the cat in the bag.
Yeah.
And everything comes around. And I mean, I almost always hear, being at university, it's so interesting. But like at university, I always hear what people say to me because it eventually comes back.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like when you're a Christian and then people are, it comes back to them and they're hearing? Or even if the original person doesn't hear what you're saying about them, but it's just to other people when you're speaking so negatively of them.
And you should be feeling it. There should be conviction in you. When you're praying at the end of the day and you're reflecting on that day, that should be coming back to you. Lord, I misspoke, or I shouldn't have said that about them, or I was thinking about that person, and yeah, I know, like, they're having a hard time, or that person that you got in a little disagreement with, you don't know what's going on in their home life or whatever, that they had their back up that day. So hopefully we're being convicted about it and we're coming, to God and seeking forgiveness. So hopefully, but one of my favorite words is intentional. And the things that we need to work on the most, like for me, it's like if I'm talking about somebody, to say something, be saying something good about them, not bad, I have to be intentional. And I have to think about that. Like when I was going into the office, there was somebody who I knew was a gossip. And it's like, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to say hi. And I'm going to... And they'd start talking, and in my head I'm thinking, whatever she's talking about, I'm going to try to turn that around and say something good about that person. But you have to be so intentional because it's so easy to be sucked into it. Eh?
I know.
Did you know?
I want to know. I want to know all the information. And it's so hard.
You have to be intentional, honestly. Oh, pray before anything. Pray before you go to work. Pray before intentionally. The things that I'm working on, like trying to be intentional about them.
I think, it's just so important. And it's so hard. I mean, I can't do it on my own strength because, I love to hear it.
You love to know.
I love to know. I just want to know everything. But I think, like, even just beyond gossip and just, like, judging others or getting into spats with others or road rage, which I've never had road rage. Never. Is just asking the Holy Spirit's help.
Yeah.
One of my prayers every morning is, Christ, help me to show your love today. Help me to be a good example. We're not going to be perfect.
No.
I mean, we're all sinners.
Not this side of heaven. No.
That's why we're Christians.
Yeah.
That's why we've accepted Christ into our lives, because we clearly can't do it ourselves.
That's why we're clinging to Him, because we can't stand alone. We need Him to hold us up.
But just trying to do a little bit better each day.
Yeah.
To take one step forward. To, like you said, swerve when you see the gossip happening, or, going above and beyond at work when you don't need to, or going over and taking care of someone's kid, or building relationships and just going forward and trying to do one thing better each day.
And even that person that even if they're a Christian and that they're living in sin or whatever, prayerfully, before you even go to them and talk to them, so that you're not, that you are gentle in your speech to them, just to point out what's in the Bible, because you don't want, it's not coming from me. This is not coming from me. I'm saying this in love, whatever you believe that their sin is, because you're trying to get them, to recognize it, but to do it prayerfully, because you don't want them to be thinking bad of you. You want them to know that you're coming to them in love. Yeah. And if it's not somebody who is a Christian, well, you even got to be even more loving, because they don't even know any better.
I think that's
they don't even know any better.
I think that's such a good point.
Yeah, and sometimes I forget that. Like, I expect more from them, but why do I expect more from them? Like, I can't even, get through a day without sinning. Why do I expect that they're going to be better than that? Yeah. Expectations.
And I think prayer, like you were saying, is so important. I think one of the greatest things about prayer is, it's softening our hearts and changing our hearts. And so I think another great way to kind of show people Christ's love and to help in this reputation is when people are being really difficult, or like when you have an enemy or you have someone who you're not getting along with, just really praying for them. It's hard at first because I'm like, I'm so mad at them. I don't want to pray for them. But it changes and softens your heart. And again, it's just like when people are looking, it changes in their mind. Oh, why are they being nice like that? Why are they being kind like that? And if you have even just such a bad image of Christians in your head, then you see someone who's just reacting so lovingly and kind to someone who's hating them. I think
can't keep fighting that. They can't keep fighting that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe at first, but they can't keep fighting that.
And the only way for us to have such a softened heart is through prayer.
Yeah, and that's the Holy Spirit, because we're not even doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the Holy Spirit working through us, and we'll work through that person. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned prayer, and I can't wait till we talk about. Well, there is going to be an episode on the power of prayer. That's coming. I can't wait to do that one. That's coming. Thank you so much for listening today, and thank you to all the people that have been following us, Lord. And please continue to listen and subscribe and like and tell your friends. And join us next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.